I am woman phenomenally. Phenomenal woman? That's me, Maya Angelou. Welcome to this segment of the Afrocentrist Podcast, The Woman, Her Story, and Her Impact, where I get to speak to women from across the globe, sharing their stories and how they are impacting their world. Coming to you every Wednesday, 4 p.m. GST. Of course, with your favorite show host, the energetic EJ. So, make it a date with me every Wednesday. The Afrocentrist Podcast, proudly African. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Afrocentrist Podcast. Yes. And to this particular segment, The Woman, Her Story, and Her Impact. My name you already know is Ejiro Osakede, and I'm happy to have you here on the show today. So like you already know, on this segment, I speak to women from across the globe, from different spheres of work, or how do they say, different spheres of life, and they get to tell us about themselves and how they are currently impacting their world. And when I speak of impact, I don't speak of something like, oh, it's all that, like, okay, I'm feeding 5,000 people or I'm reaching out to 1 million souls. No, it could be as simple as just having an idea or a heart to be able to reach out to a particular set of people or do something specific for somebody else. And so whether your impact is big or small, I don't even know who's measuring, but I just want you to know that as long as you are helping somebody else outside of yourself, you are definitely making an impact and you are worthy to share your story. And that's what TWSI is all about, the woman, her story, and her impact. And today on the show, I have a special guest. This one is my sister, right? My kindred. But, you know, she is from the UK, but she has Nigerian blood in her. And she's going to be telling us about herself and how she's currently impacting our world. I kind of like her story. You know, her story is like, okay, you didn't plan this, but this is how it's ending. And the thing that you didn't even think that you were going to, that you have interest in, is that same thing now that is actually making a vehicle, that is turning out to be a vehicle through which she wants to impact others. So what's that thing? We're going to find out. But before I bring my guest on, here is a message for you. Are you an author, publisher, or entrepreneur? Sometimes the journey can get lonely and it becomes easy to think about throwing in the towel. But that doesn't have to be your own story. Let me tell you about a community of like-minded people where you can get support, motivation, and inspiration to keep going. It is called Online Publishers and Entrepreneurs Network. With over 35,000 active members, you don't have to feel alone and you can be assured of consistent value, honing your writing skills, learning new hacks to help you grow your business and brand. Join Open today and be open to a world of possibilities. Click on the link in description to join the community today. All right. Yes, my guest is here. Hi. Okay. When you hear her speak, I want you to guess her name, but let me not even give you that assignment because I don't want to stress you, okay? So here today on the show, I have Amma with a double M.
Thank you. 2 M's.
And every time I even chat with her, I will put 1 M, but she's just said no, it's Amma with 2 M's. So this is Amma Ukachuku. This is the Ukachuku because it's spelled U, but she just stopped me that the U has a sign under it. I'm like, okay, I just learned something in Igbo language now. So Amma Ukachuku, yeah?
Yes, Ukachuku, yeah.
Ukachuku.
I mean, I don't know if I'm saying it correctly. I'm sure any Igbos out there will correct my mispronunciation.
Awesome.
Yes,
so good to have you.
Good to be here. I'm very excited.
How are you doing today?
I'm very well. Just recovering from still trying to get the salt out of my nose, but it's fine. My open water swim, but yeah, that was interesting.
Awesome.
So I highly recommend it to everyone.
Awesome. Sweet. So how we normally start this segment of the show is we get to meet you, and then we then transfer into how you're impacting your world. So who is Amma?
Who is Amma? So my name is Amma Ukachuku, or Amma Ukachuku, and I'm London born and bred, but with Nigerian Igbo specific ancestry. Both my parents are from Imo State, and my dad, he was one of those part of the Windrush generation. So after the Second World War, he was invited over to the UK to help rebuild the country. So he was working for Nigerian Railways at the time, and then he went over to the UK in the 60s. Went back to Nigeria in the 70s and married my mum, and then come back to the UK and London specifically, and then me and my siblings, we all grew up in East End of London. So yeah.
How was growing up for you?
It was interesting. I mean, we lived in a very, very, how can I put it? Quite, for lack of a better word, quite racist part of London. So it was this early 80s. So it was National Front territory, basically. We were the only African family in that way. We were the only African children in our primary school. Ooh. I think there was maybe a Caribbean boy, and then that was it. We didn't have English names, so we like the names, just the name calling and teasing that you got was quite. I mean, you didn't know any difference. Yeah. So very much it was us. There was 5 of us, and my mum and dad, us in our little kind of bubble with all these other elements outside. So, but yeah, I mean, you get on with it. It's what you know. So I didn't know any different. So you adjust, and my parents very much were about education. So it's about doing the best that you can in the situation that you have. It's only like later on speaking to people who, especially I was in touch with the deputy head of my primary school, who was my mentor, and just hearing things as an adult about what was going on in the school, you just didn't know.
Like you were oblivious of it, like you were just like being a child.
Yeah, it's just like, but we were good black children, so because we were bright, so we didn't kind of experience some of the kind of institutional racism that other children may have experienced.
I think your parents also must have had a role to play in that. They didn't really give you that option to think about it. Just be you, be the best you can be, and that's it.
I mean, and that's the thing. Like very much, we were always like very top of the class, very bright. I mean, I remember like in the summers there would be a play scheme at the local church, the church centre, and it would just be all day. And you'd go and do activities. I was always playing pool and darts. I got really good at pool actually at the time. And then I remember one summer my mum had to go to Nigeria with my younger sister at the time, or she went by herself. And my dad made us go to the library the whole summer.
Oh my gosh.
The library decided to have a play scheme. And my dad was like, oh, that's so... We ended up spending the whole summer at the library. And initially I really resented it, but by the end of it, I loved it. And I think that really... I loved the library. Loved going to the library. I remember I'd go in, it closed at 12, and I'd go with my 4 books really early, go to the library, come back. And by 12, I would have read through all of my books and gone back and changed them again.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I wish I just don't have...
So it just kind of made you enjoy reading more.
Yeah, but I don't have that same love now. I don't... maybe it's just time.
I love how honest, like, please...
I don't have the time, so I do audiobooks now because I just don't have
the
time.
Boom, yeah. I do audiobooks now, like seriously, yes. Yeah. There are alternatives. So the fact that, life is happening and there's no longer the time you have to read those books, don't mean you should stop reading altogether. There are alternatives. You can listen to books. Thank you for pointing that in.
Yeah, no, it's just, it really has, it saved me because I was thinking, I'm not reading like I used to. So now, like when I'm on my drives, I have an audiobook. And it's just nice, just if it's either music or an audiobook. But now I'm trying to make sure that if I've got a long drive, especially when I was going to work, it would just be my journey 20 minutes in, 20 minutes back.
I mean,
you get like a little chapter
in a week you could finish a book.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, my sister had given me a list of books and I was able to, in January, I managed to get through at least 4 or 5 of them.
There's no way you could have done that if you were going to read physically. Exactly. Because time, you have to work, you have to do your notes as a teacher yourself and all of those things. Awesome. All right, I think you had quite an interesting childhood.
Yeah, I mean, there was 5, we were close as children. There's 5 of us, so I've got 2 older sisters and a younger sister and a brother.
Or just one brother?
Yeah, he's the youngest.
Ooh,
So, bless. So yeah, I mean, it was interesting. And then obviously when we went to secondary school, again, you were the minority. And I mean, it very much, I mean, my parents very much were, you're going to university, you're going to university. They didn't really prepare us for anything else, but there was this whole concept of education. I mean, it's a Nigerian trait, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that was always an expectation. It wasn't anything else. GCSEs, did my A levels at college in South London.
So now how did that education? I mean, you mentioned that your parents were really like particular about the education and they gave you the best of it. How did that kind of shape what you wanted to be?
I don't know, because I mean, like I said, I was saying to you earlier, I wanted to be a stockbroker when I was little. I wanted to be a stockbroker. I watched what's his name? It was the Chancellor. Oh, I can't remember his name. I can see his face. It'll come to me. And I remember watching this guy, and he was like on the trading floor, sell, and all this. And I was like, I want to be a stockbroker. And that was like, I mean, I didn't realise that actually you need to be good at maths, stuff like that.
This maths that everybody run away from. It's like funny. It's funny how math is actually very important in every sphere of life.
But I did my thing. I'm not a maths person. I'm L2 R2, and L1 is where it's all the numbers and stuff like that. It's that that part of my brain doesn't work as well. So that's my excuse.
It works, but
it's not functioning as highly as my L2 and my R2, which is the empathy and the compassion, and the L2 is all about organizing and stuff.
Okay, so if you're wondering what L1, L2, R1, R2 is how our brain is, compartmentalized, if I would say that. So depending on what part of the brain that is highest, how you react or see life and everything, it kind of tells you what part of the brain is more functional, whether it's the right brain, the lower right, the upper right, or the lower left or upper right. So I'll probably try and look for that image and infuse in this video so you can have an idea of what we're talking about. So you're like, what are they saying? L1, L2, is it maths again?
I did okay. I did okay at my GCSEs. I could have done better. And again, with A levels, yes, I got into university, so that wasn't a problem. But I think one of the things that, like I said, I wanted to be a stockbroker, and I was lucky enough to do my work experience at the London Stock Exchange, but I wasn't actually on the trading floor. And then I was actually in an office, and I realised I don't like being in an office. It was
boring.
It was so boring. Oh my gosh, it was so boring. And the first week was an absolute disaster, because there was a point where I realised that, this is where I call it my early onset narcolepsy. My friends will turn around and say, Amma, no, that's not correct. But there was a point, I think, that I actually ended up, because it was cold in the office, and I think I went outside, and I think I must have fallen asleep in a chair.
Outside?
In a corridor or something, and I got caught, and then they turned around and said they didn't want me in their department anymore. So I ended up, so I got moved to a different department. They were so much more nicer. And then I realised that, this is really not for me. To the point that when I went back to school, I had chosen business studies as my option. And I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. My dad was not very best pleased. I think in his mind, he'd already got his docs for an accountant. I was going to be the business person. And he wouldn't sign my form, so I could change options. I had to get my mum to do it. I can't remember. I don't know how long he didn't speak to me, but that's another story. But yeah, and I changed to history, and it was the best decision I ever made, because I absolutely loved it. And I realised that's where my love was. And then A levels was always Spanish and history, and both at GCSE and at A level I'd done quite a few modules on American history, and I'd really just quite fascinated by the US. So I don't know how it ended up. I always knew that I was going to use my Spanish for work purposes. That was the idea.
And so then, as you did that, what came as a result of that? Because you knew you were going to use the Spanish and the history for something. So teaching was what came to you?
No, not at all. No, not at all. No. Not at all. No. So what happened was I was thinking about, like, I wanted to do something that would allow me to travel. I thought if I'm going to be spending 4 years doing this topic, it needs to be something that I enjoy. And I think I loved Spanish at GCSE, and it was more to do with I think it was my teacher. A level, oh my God, I hated it, absolutely hated it. It was really hard. And then even at a degree level, I just wasn't feeling it. And I'd always been quite reticent about speaking. I was always hesitant about speaking. I didn't like, because I wanted to sound Spanish, all this kind of stuff. And it's like, no, I don't want to sound Spanish with a Cockney accent. And it wasn't until I did my year abroad that I did a year abroad in Cuba. And then I came back, and then I actually started appreciating it. But no, I wanted to do something that would allow me. So the Foreign Commonwealth Office, I think, again, when I was choosing to be a stockbroker, I was thinking, be Secretary General of the UN. I don't know where that came about.
So now you've jumped that, like, okay, that's like
yeah. No, I mean, that was just like
in the moment.
Yeah. It was Boutros Ghali was the Secretary General of the UN. Not many people know that at the time. Not many people knew who he was, but I did. And my friends looked at me, how do you know this?
Because you wanted to be him, or you wanted to take his place.
Yeah, so the idea was to do Foreign and Commonwealth Office, because then I was thinking, that'll let me travel, I can use my Spanish. But then it involves you having to do an entrance exam for the civil service. It was hard, because I think, again, there was some maths involved, and it didn't work out. And then, for some reason, when I was doing my degree, I did my year abroad, and I ended up getting a summer job, working on... So, in the UK at the time, loads of companies, national companies were floating on the stock market. So, the electricity, gas, and all those, they'd all floated. And then it was Norwich Union, and they were floating. And I just ended up getting some summer work with them. And then when I'd finished my degree, I ended up getting a job back with them. So I ended up backing in, and I was working for Lloyd's registrars. And so the registrars were responsible for holding all of like the shares, and like we were dealing with any of the aftermath of any queries of the Norwich Union floating on the stock market. So I ended up back into investment banking, which was not quite what I wanted to do, but I mean it was fine. It paid the bills, and it was a nice chilled job. It wasn't, and it wasn't too stressful. And then I had opportunities to look, what is it that I wanted to do? And I was reading The Guardian, I was looking at society pages, and then there was an advert where you could go. It was for the EU sponsored, or European Union sponsored, Leonardo da Vinci program, and it was about Europe without borders, and it was about you being able to choose. So you could go to France, you could go to Spain, you could go to Germany, I think Greece and Italy, any one of these countries, 3 months, and it was about you do a language course, and then you work for 2 months. And it was about you, again, Europe without borders, about you going around and experiencing living and working in Europe. And I applied, and I ended up was in Spain for 4 months, and which loved it. I got to travel around, see quite a bit of the country that I hadn't seen before. I mean, and I remember I've been doing Spanish since the age of 11. I've never been to Spain. I'd done my first time going to a Spanish-speaking country was my year abroad when I was at the age of 20. And then came back, and then ended up working for the UBS, so it's Union Bank of Switzerland. I was a HR analyst. I didn't like it. My sister got in touch with, through Friends Reunited back in the day, before Facebook, got in touch with my primary school teacher, and then we ended up kind of keeping in contact and chatting, and she just kind of put the idea about teaching, and I was like, no, I don't have the patience for that. Really? Is that something I could do? But then I really wasn't happy. I just felt that I was selling my soul to the devil, being in that space. Yeah, it just was so. It wasn't an environment that gave me joy. So I got in touch with my old school, and it was the choice between Spanish and history. I wasn't sure. Like I said, history has always been. I love history. It's always been a love of mine, and obviously Spanish as well. So I went back to my old school and got chatting to. I don't know if was my Spanish teacher still there. I can't remember, but my history teacher was Mr. Broom. So I was just talking about what it was, and then I applied to Goldsmiths and got onto the PGCE. And at the same time, they were going through some restructuring at my bank.
Okay, so it was a good time.
Yes. So I ended up leaving the bank on Independence Day. So I said, yay.
Okay, I'm in. Nice.
Yeah, and then went to Cuba for 6 weeks and travelled around. I had a friend there, so I got to travel around the whole island. So that was really nice because I didn't get a chance to do that in my whole year. Yeah. Well, when I was studying, yeah. And then did my PGCE, and 17 years later,
I know,
I'm still here. So I did my PGCE in 2003. Got my first post in July 2000. So I started July 2004.
So PGCE is what again?
Oh yeah, sorry. There's so many acronyms in education.
In education, yeah.
So PGCE is a postgraduate certificate in education.
Okay.
So you can normally that's what you do if you've already done your degree. So some people do a bachelor's, a BEd. So do a Bachelor of Education. I obviously already done my degree. So you do that. And
so if you don't have a degree in education, you have to do the PGCE to come into the educational system.
Yeah. I mean, there's two ways. So me and another guy, we both started at the same time as NQTs. And NQT is a newly qualified teacher. So
NQTs, PGCE.
I mean, they've now changed that. But yeah, I know it's crazy. And he did the GTP, which is the graduate. So I did the PGCE. He did the GTP, and we both started as NQTs. The GTP is a graduate trainee program. So I chose the uni route, whereby you're based at university and then you do 2 placements. He did the GTP route, which is you're in school the whole time.
Okay.
But I just wanted to do the PGC route was the best route for me. So it meant it was at Goldsmiths. So you started off at university, you had all your lectures and like your seminars with someone specific to your topic. And so I ended up choosing to do languages rather than history. I don't know why. It just so happens. But then in the October of 2016, me and one of my friend was actually here teaching in Dubai. So we came out me and another friend, we both came out to see her.
For holiday?
Yeah, just like half term. We went to the school and just like, is there jobs? Because I think deep down I'd always said to myself, I want to live and work abroad. It was always something that I'd wanted to do. And actually, while I'd actually got onto this program, which was it was called the Fulbright program, where you exchange. So I'm teaching in the UK, there's someone teaching in the US. We swap lives. So I teach at their school, they teach at mine.
An exchange program.
So teacher exchange program. And I got onto that and I was like, this is it. I'm going to go and teach in America for a year. And then I can go traveling. So I always wanted to go to South America and Central America. And I would have had the whole of the summer to do that and then come back into my job. I'll be living in their place. They'll be living in my place. Oh. Yeah. But then the 2008 crash happened and they had to cut the funding and then they reduced the places. And then the following year, there wasn't someone to exchange with me. I was quite devastated by that. And I was like, that's it. I'm not going away. I'm still teaching children about resilience and I don't even have it myself. So and then, I just think that's something that's always come back around. So then we went to the school and then we had a look around and then asking about potential jobs and he was like, initially there might have been a potential and then he said no and then I kind of came home and I kind of closed that door and travel. I thought actually I'm liking my life in the UK. I kind of was redecorating my apartment and just getting back into my life and just gone through a rocky patch and I was in a good space. And then my friend here, it was May, said there's a job here, do you want it? Are you interested? And I was like, well, I'm kind of enjoying my job here now. She goes, don't be stupid, send me your CV. So I did, and then I had an interview. They made me record a lesson with a student saying, that's a violation. And it's like, it wasn't the best lesson ever, but had an interview and within more or less got offered a job on the spot. And it was like, oh wow.
I'm going to travel after all.
I'm moving to Dubai. And obviously because I got my job so late, most people would have had their jobs prior to the Easter holidays, so I didn't really have time to think about anything. And then that happened that was literally the end of May. Then 2 weeks later my dad passed and then it was just I didn't even have time to kind of register that I'm moving I think I had to be here, like the flights were like the 20 something of August or something. It was just sorting out his
fast.
Yeah, well, it's just we had to go to Nigeria to bury him because he has a stipulation that he had to get buried in Nigeria. So so that I literally didn't have any time to process that I was moving to Dubai. And then before buried my dad, got back, and then it was like, okay, I'm moving in like I had like 2 weeks or like less than 2 months, about a month to kind of pack up my life and then move out. Yeah.
So what would you say inspired you to then say, okay, 13 years in the UK and then 4 years in the UAE in the teaching space, and now it has morphed into, you know what, I'll still teach, but I want to take it beyond that and help, you know, other teachers who are looking to come into this space, especially in the UAE. Like, you know, what inspired that?
I think for me, it's not about, it's not that I love teaching and that's never gonna stop. I think for me, what was making me tired was like the bureaucracy and the politics and things like that. So being able to step out of that space, but still be in education, whereby it is that I'm still teaching. So I'm working with the University of Wollongong, where I'm teaching at an Iranian school and I'm teaching English. And I'm going to be working with the university directly, teaching English as well. So I am still teaching, and then obviously I'm doing some online stuff as well. Mm-hmm. So that love will always be there. I just think I think that sometimes being in a system, you are restricted. And for me, it's about maybe stepping out of that system and seeing and looking around and seeing what changes can be made. And what I noticed was that schools are diverse as schools can be. But sometimes the teaching, the staff doesn't reflect that diversity. I mean, like we live in Dubai and the UAE, and they always talk about how diverse it is and so on and so on. But if you look at certain spaces, that level up here, it's not diverse. And I just think that education is education. It's not changing wherever it is. But if there's an opportunity for people to come into spaces, then that opportunity should be open to all. So I'm all about I'm about equity of access, that some people have more access to spaces than others, and it's just making sure that everyone, as long as you have the qualifications, I'm not saying that it's not about affirmative action. This is about equality and making sure that if you've got the qualifications and you can do the job, then why shouldn't you be able to do the job in whatever space you can?
So do you think that is something that is reachable here in this region? Like looking at, okay, even if you, as long as you have the qualification, there is space for you.
Yes, yeah, definitely. So when we did the employability summit, what I realised, and I kind of did a bit of research beforehand, and one of the things was I asked teachers who are not native speakers, quote unquote, I really hate that term, but that's what they
native English speakers.
Native English speakers. So literally when they say that, and they will actually even go even further and say UK, Ireland, US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. So those are the 6. Sometimes they'll put South Africa in there as well. And I was like, well, South Africa's got how many official languages? So I mean, I don't know what you mean by native English speakers, but yeah, that's the thing. That's the problem is that international education, there's a colonial legacy. So Britain went around and did what it did, and now it is the British system is seen as the creme de la creme. And that's a colonial remnants that you have everywhere. So you've got parents that they are funny about who's going to be their child's teacher. So they'll look, and I was like, but accents are accents. You can have someone with a really, really strong Scottish accent. Is that child going to be able to understand them? And you have someone maybe who speaks English and has got a Nigerian accent. There's not that much difference, but you'll take the Scottish person over the Nigerian person. So I just think that when I was with the employability summit, I spoke to 3 Nigerians who are teachers here, and like one of them, so I did secondary level, primary level, and early years. So I thought the whole curriculum spectrum. And they're 3 people who are working in schools, and they've been successful. And I was like, well, then there's no reason why there can't be more. I mean, in long term, the UAE and other international places are going to have to look, because the UK is going through a crisis. They're going through there's a teacher shortage. People don't want to. They won't want to do it. Like, they're looking at how they want like retention and so on. There's so many studies about actually, and like the thing is, even within actual teaching, you've got so many more people who are wanting to come out here. So if everyone's coming out here, but they're not creating, there's not
space for more people.
Then you are going to have to look elsewhere. So there is that gap in that market for maybe people who are not. They're still English speakers,
but they're not native English.
But then the thing is, you're a native English speaker. My parents, like my mum, had nuns. She had Catholic nuns teaching her. That was in the 50s, and that's what I mean. So
exactly right. Yeah. So it's confusing. Like when you're filling the form and they're like, "Is English your native?" I'm like, okay. Is English your first language? Yes, I know we have a dialect, but personally, I don't speak my dialect. English is my first language.
Well, that's the thing, and that's the thing. It's like, but the thing is, like there are over 500 languages in Nigeria, so English is the lingua franca.
Yeah,
lingua franca,
so
that's what everyone
exactly.
speaks. So and everyone, but the thing is,
and that's how we taught. That was how we were taught. That was how we were educated. So
exactly. But like the thing is, it's like if you go to Spain, you've got Castellano, which is what we class as Spanish, but then you've got Catalan. Most people, if you live in Barcelona, you speak Castellano and you speak Catalan. It's normal to be bilingual. So most people in a lot of African countries, they're bilingual. That's all it is. It's like they speak English and they speak their language. So I just think that there's no reason why there can't be a space for people who are, for lack of a better word, non-white, working in schools, as long as you've got the qualifications. So for example, the guy that I was speaking to, and I'm going to be looking to kind of just be interviewing them just to kind of get their experience. He doesn't even have a teaching qualification, but he's working in schools here. I mean, I think it depends on the subject. I think if like your science isn't...
He's white?
Yeah, no, he's black. He's Nigerian.
Oh, okay.
He teaches sciences. So I think science and maths, it's universal, isn't it? It doesn't matter what you do. I mean, 1 + 1 is 2. It doesn't matter what language you're speaking. That's going to always be the same. I think where some things like English and certain subjects where it's quite country specific, then that's where there might be a bit more of a struggle. But like primary level as well. So one of the girls, she's a primary teacher. She was actually a principal in Nigeria and then came here and then is now just
a teacher.
Well, I hate saying just a teacher, but she made the decision to be in the classroom, and that's for me was always important. I think that the higher up you go, you spend less time in the classroom. It's always been about interaction with children and the children and the students. It's never been about policy making and things like that. And that's important, because then I get annoyed by some of the policies that are made, like, that just doesn't make any sense. but sometimes it's always been about being in the classroom, being with the students and getting them to love the language that I'm teaching. So, and then she was, and has been really successful, the early years teacher as well. She did the qualification that she needed here. And has been, again, successful. So there are opportunities. And
so what you are seeking to do is to open people who are not here yet, or even some people who are here and just looking for the opportunity, to open them up to the opportunities that really exist.
Exactly, and just making and like it might be that an understanding, and then this is just open, like I said, I've just given you all these acronyms. That's just for teaching. Like if you go into Key Stage 1, early years, Key Stage 2, like understanding like what do you like here, if you want to teach in the UAE, there are so many different spectrums. You've got British system, you've got the American system, you've got the IB system, you've got the Indian system. There are French schools, there's a German school, there's a Spanish school that's opened up in Abu Dhabi, you've got the Swiss boarding school. They all follow different curriculums. You've got the whole Ministry of Education, their whole schools for like locals and so on. So there's all of these areas that education is it's massive over here,
yeah.
and that's not going to change as long as you've got an expat community. Then education is always going to be something that is needed, and with education comes teachers, and it's just making sure that children need to see more than one group of people as their teacher, because
especially in this type of community.
Exactly, because like the thing is, who was I talking to? And I was talking to someone, and like I was talking to a guy, Australian guy, and he'd gone, like, some of his children here, they'd gone back, like friends had children, they'd gone back to Australia, and these children had seen a Filipino lady, and like who'd been sitting out with, like, and they'd said to the other children, "Oh, is that your nanny?" Because that's the concept, that they think that that's it, or like because here sometimes like the jobs are certain class of people will do certain jobs,
kind of
and I just think that's not the world that we live in. The world that we live in, everyone should be able to have access to do whatever it is that they want to do. And I think that education is a way. If you've got the education, you've got the qualifications,
then you should have a place.
Yeah, and I just think that there are all so many types of schools. I'm not saying that, like, yes, there's some schools that you have to sit an entrance exam, and they will, I mean, even most chances are I didn't go to a Russell Group University, or they most probably they'll only employ people from Oxford and Cambridge and so on. That's a different kettle of fish, but there's lots of different schools that they might be missing a trick in terms of there are highly qualified people who can do the job. But if you're only going to go for those 7 golden countries, then you're short of hands to work with, and I think you're doing the children a disservice, because I think it's important that they see diversity in the staff as well, because they're going to go out into the world, and you don't want them to have this concept, well, that only this group of people can be in positions of authority or are, you know what I mean? And I just think that's not the world that we live in, and we want to make the world as inclusive as possible. And if the UAE is talking about how diverse it is, then let's make sure
that they're really diverse.
Yeah.
I feel like this is really audacious of you.
Well, why not?
Because this is it sounds to me, or it feels to me like an Herculean task, just preparing the people to say there are opportunities here.
Yeah.
But how are you planning to deal with the system itself?
No, but I'm just saying, like, the thing is like, so for example, it's not that people can't get jobs here, because so for example, you've got people you could be a TA, and what you can do is, like, lots of people who are TAs, they might want to train to be a teacher. There are opportunities for you to train to be a teacher. So a friend of mine, she's got a couple of Indian ladies who are TAs, and the schools trained them up to be qualified teachers. So that's a route in. So it's just making people aware, because the reason why I just thought there was a gap is because I'm on a couple of these Facebook groups, and it's all about teacher groups, and there's always same people. Do I need this? And I don't think people are aware. Some people don't even know what they need to be qualified. Okay. And it's not just. I'm not just kind of restricting myself to. It has to be just only non-Westerns, but obviously there are other people who are already in that space. So I'm just thinking who's looking after these groups of people who might want to come here, and so that's what I just want to think. I'm positioning myself to say, well, hey, I know what it's like. I'm lucky enough that I have passport privilege, but I can understand that it's important that in these spaces we need more people. We need more people who look like some of the children that are being taught. I just think that. Yeah, and it's just understanding. So it's just my aim is to provide content. So this is what the system is. So we're in the UAE. These are the systems that work. I mean, obviously, I know more about the British system. I think the American system is slightly different, because they very much will normally mostly employ American teachers. I get that. But like the MOE, there's all these kind of, there's so many, the majority of schools here are British schools.
British curriculum, yeah?
Yeah, the British curriculum schools. So yeah, and they're always, I mean, I'm seeing, like, there's even now people, like, wanting teachers, but then you've got people who are posting on these groups and they don't even know what it is. They might not know what the systems are. So I just want to it's about educating people, like, these are the system, this is what you need. So if you want to teach in these schools, this is what you need. Here's some people who've done it before, so there's nothing stopping you from doing it. Because obviously you had people, like the first guy, he came here on a visit visa 3 months, and he just kind of like just sent out a CV, got a job. The other girl, I think, she did it from Nigeria and then kind of did that process here. And then the other girl was here and then did her early years qualification here. So there are those opportunities and there's those options. So it's just kind of shedding light and giving people the option to do that, and then just basically pointing them in the direction that they should
pointing
go,
them in the right direction,
so that they don't fall into the wrong hands. You don't go blindly, and more like cut it short for them, so they don't have to just go like, okay, I'm not sure what to do. But if you know exactly what to do, you can go through the process and get it.
And it's just like, and the thing is like and then just being here and understanding the system. I just think, yes, people say, well, you've only worked in the UAE for 4 years, but I've got my experience in terms of like having over 17 years of understanding how the educational system works. That's what's important. And not just that, in terms of if it is that someone needs help with something, I know people. So I know someone who's doing lots of works on like CV clinics and stuff like that, in terms of not understanding the kind of CVs that you need to be here. What is it that you need for your cover letter? All those kind of things. So I just think it's quite a niche, but I just think that there is a gap in the market for that. And that's just one aspect of the consultancy that I want to set up. So it's just like, it might be like, hey, what is it you want to teach in the UAE? Okay, what steps do you need to do? This is what you need to understand, and this is
how to position
yourself so that you can have every opportunity if that's what you want. I mean, it might be that it's not for you. So that's what I'm hoping to do.
Fantastic. So how can, say somebody's watching this now and they want to plug into that to say, okay, I've been thinking of being a teacher in the UAE, but I'm not sure how. Now that I'm watching this or I'm listening to this, I'm like, okay, how can I contact you so that you can?
Well, now that you mention it, I've got an Instagram. So my Instagram is Amzical, the UAE Educator.
Okay, so I'm going to scroll that on the screen and also in the description of this video and of the audio podcast.
Yeah, so one of my good colleagues that I used to work with, my friend, she started calling me Amzical. So I use that now as my moniker. So Amzical, the UAE Educator, and it's just a new Instagram, and I'm just growing it, all things UAE. So the idea is that I'm just going to be posting, so in the next week I'm going to be talking about the British curriculum, and then I'll be doing some webinars, and then if people need coaching, like doing some group coaching and having like some VIP sessions, just to make sure that you understand everything that is that you need to do if you want to teach in the UAE. So
this is open to not only people who are already in the UAE, but people who are coming.
Yeah, anyone. All right. And that will just kind of give you an insight about teaching in the UAE. And it's not just Dubai. There's 7 Emirates.
Exactly.
Sometimes you just have to, as one of the things I said about on the employability, like my 3 top tips: do your research, think outside the box, and I can't remember what the third one was. What was the third one? Oh, it's really annoying. Anyway, it'll come back to me.
All right. Okay, so guys, if you're thinking of teaching in the UAE, like you heard us say, we have like 7 Emirates in the UAE. It's not just Dubai. So you have
Abu Dhabi,
Ajman, Sharjah,
Al Quwain, Ras Al Khaimah,
Fujairah, and what's the last one?
Abu Dhabi, Dubai.
Yeah.
And you can teach in any of these Emirates, but you need to, have somebody who will tell you what to look out for, how to position correctly, how to put your CV together, the qualifications you need. There are some exams that you need to write to get into the space of teaching here. Whether you even want to go through the route of being an assistant teacher first and then getting into the space of being a proper teacher. There are just these opportunities that you can explore. And Amsako here is saying, you know what, I want to be that go-to person that you can talk to, that you can ask questions about the educational systems here. Right, she's been a teacher for 17 years. That counts for something. Of course, 4 years in the UAE, but it counts for something. She's still the British curriculum.
And I'm still teaching. And I am still teaching. So
in case you even want to learn Spanish, do you have time for that? No.
I guess. Nos vemos. No. Quizás, no.
Thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
All right. So guys, you have it here. I mean, like I said in the beginning, this is just about meeting her and telling you how she wants to impact the world. And I'm here thinking in my head like, wow, this is huge, because you just wanting to say, you know what, I know that there are opportunities here, but we don't have to wait for the system to announce that opportunity. Let's prepare so that we can make them see the opportunity. And I just think that this is really noble of Amsako here. Thank you so much for thinking about other teachers.
Don't call me Amsako.
I'm not Amsako. No, we are trying to establish the brand name. Come on.
Okay, right, sorry. I've got to say, is this Amma with one M again?
All right, guys. I hope that this session has been impactful for you. If you have any questions, you can send me an email to theafrocentrist@gmail.com, or you can send me a DM on Instagram. Ask any question you want to ask around teaching in the UAE, but of course also connect with Amma here on Instagram so that you can also digest some of the content that she'll be putting out to educate you about what gives over here. Thank you for being here on the show today. Till I come your way again with another woman and another story. Remain amazing.
Bye.
Bye.